Show of the week. My name is Mehdi. I'm your host, and today we have another figure of the fintech scene in Hong Kong, Neil. Hello, Neil. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks a lot for having me, man.
Thank you very much for joining us, especially after starting your new project a few months ago.
Yep. Yeah, very excited about that.
So today we will speak about blockchain in China, implementation of this project, and a new keyword after NFT, DCC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe before we start to go on deep on this discussion, can you introduce quickly yourself? And after this, we can speak about Neptune.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Neil Tan. I'm the CEO of Neptune Digital. Neptune Digital is actually a blockchain company, joint venture between a company called Kenetic Capital and another company called CryptoBLK. So Kenetic Capital is a venture capital fund that focuses in on blockchain and also crypto. And CryptoBLK is actually a DLT and blockchain service provider focused on banks, finance, insurance, and also Hong Kong government-related projects. So,
Okay, the company is based here in Hong Kong, right?
yeah, the company is based out of Hong Kong.
Okay, I knew you from the FinTech Association, and before you were working for HSBC. So
Yeah.
we have a quick question for you. What makes someone leaving HSBC or a big corporate, just a big corporate,
Sure.
to go to that exciting space of a blockchain, and especially here in Hong Kong and China?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so a little bit of background. I mean, I was at HSBC. I was the head of business development inside of the partnerships, digital partnerships and innovation team. So what we do is look at different revenue opportunities as far as working with big tech. So Alibaba, JD, Ping An, Tencent, so on and so forth on the Tech Titans East. And also on Tech Titans West, we work with like Amazon's, Google's, Microsoft's, and so forth. And what we did was basically trying to introduce different finance products onto their platforms. So that would be, wallets, payments and wallets, lending, wealth, as well as insurance. So it was actually super interesting. I mean, we were able to land a number of different projects. But, of course, when you deal with a company that's, 150 years old, it's a little bit slow to get things across and landed and so forth. And you're also looking at a new sector, which is basically blockchain related, right? So I think this was sort of the attraction to make a move outside of that. It's still within sort of the fintech area, but it's now inside of blockchain, and which is a very emerging market. So, and a lot of different opportunities, both on the B2B side as well as the B2C side. So, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. You look really passionate about this,
Yeah.
but is it only the only passion you got in your life, or do you have other passion that you can share with us?
Yeah. No, so yeah, aside from all the fintech and also blockchain and all these other areas, I'm also very passionate about self-defense.
Okay,
I'm actually a self-defense instructor. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I'm also a Krav Maga instructor. So I teach classes, generally speaking, on the weekends. And super important to me is it's almost like swimming, right? Swimming is a life skill. I think self-defense is also a life skill, and a lot of people don't have that skill set. And we work with everyone that travels a lot. Of course, Hong Kong is a very safe place, but most people travel outside of Hong Kong in normal times, right? And we also teach kids and teens that eventually travel abroad and live abroad and study abroad and those different things. So it's a super interesting area of my
so
life.
it's all about the security, blockchain security,
Yeah,
self-defense security, different
exactly.
kind of cyber
Yeah,
security or not, right?
exactly.
What is the favorite thing you are doing on your daily jobs right now, especially on
Mhm.
the blockchain side?
Yeah, I think the probably the most interesting piece is the areas that we actually focus in on. So if I kind of back it up a little bit, what we are doing is we are Ethereum inside of China. So it's called Open Permissioned Ethereum, or OPE. And essentially, a lot of people have this misconception about China, especially inside of the crypto space. China is definitely anti-crypto. Buy, sell, trade, mining of crypto is not allowed. However, China is very, very bullish on blockchain. In fact, they have national programs introducing blockchain. They've at the front of the year, they have 15 different cities that are also launching blockchain activities, and they've introduced inside of enterprises about 160 different projects, ranging from trade finance to healthcare to education, all blockchain projects. And so that's just standard issue enterprise. But of course, the whole CBDC area, or central bank digital currency. China is actively digitizing the RMB, so ERMB is a big push. And in that context, what they did was they created an infrastructure called the BSN, also known as the Blockchain Based Services Network. And so you can think of that as sort of layer zero, almost like the land, that is there available to be developed. That's what BSN is. And we are the chain on BSN. So if, let's say, we wanted to build a high speed rail there on the land, that's what Ethereum is there. We work with the BSN to say, okay, we want to go from point A to point B. This is what we're going to introduce here. And that's what Ethereum is on the BSN. So that's what we're looking at right now. So
Out of curiosity, you just mentioned about China being empty crypto, NFTs, and few other like digital assets. Do you know
yes.
why? Can you explain to people why?
Yeah, absolutely. So China, I think, if we look at the overarching theme now, is talking about common prosperity, right? And what crypto has seen, even outside of China, is a lot of speculation inside of it. And what this creates is obviously wild swings in terms of, the asset prices and so forth, and also, as a potential threat to consumers, right? I mean, that's why even inside of Hong Kong, we look at the retail space, most of all the crypto activity is actually at the institutional or professional level. So this is what China is trying to avoid, is this type of speculation. And essentially, that's why they banned all of those activities. But of course, this also has to tie in with all the CBDC activity, because they do encourage ERMB. So that's part and parcel of the strategy, is how do you make sure that there's not all this wild speculation, and also encourage people to use ERMB.
So your focus is really on China right now with your company.
At this moment, yeah, there's another international initiative that was announced in the most recent BSN conference, talking about Spartan. So, how do you deploy blockchain outside of China that does not include crypto? So, is just paid in terms of fiat, or gas fees are paid in fiat.
You mentioned about Ethereums and OPE. What is the impact of your company and BSN bringing Ethereums in China? Because it looks like before there is no Ethereums in China, or nobody was leveraging that platform.
Yeah, so Ethereum essentially is on the public chain you can deploy, right? I mean, let's say, for example, OpenSea, the largest NFT marketplace outside of China. They could easily deploy inside of China, but then that would be on the public chain. There, people can get access to it, and so on and so forth, but it's not actually legal or compliant to the Chinese regulations, because it's still using Ethereum as the underlying asset, or underlying means of transactions, right, for payment of gas fees. But essentially, what we've done is we've gone in and made a Ethereum version, a Chinese version of Ethereum, which on the front end is about KYCing, right? So we KYC both the people that are developing the DApp, and also KYC the actual project, right? So, for example, if you were to say that I was going to deploy a DeFi DApp into China, that would not fly, because obviously there's crypto and there's all these financial, what they would consider securities, right? On the back end, what they want to do is they want to convert all the Ethereum based transactions into RMB. So really, the front end and the back end have been changed for the Ethereum. But fundamentally, when we say look at the code and different smart contracts, it's code for code the same. Right? I like to use this analogy as is like, you have a Hong Kong car, right? And you're going to drive into Shenzhen, for example. That car, first the driver has to have an international driver's license, and the car has to have a Chinese license plate, right? So they can drive and cross the border. That's no problem. That's the KYC piece. If the car is running out of gas, he goes to the gas station, tries to pay in Hong Kong dollars. No, that doesn't work, right? So they have to pay in renminbi. Now, is the car fundamentally different between Hong Kong and China? If you look at, let's say, a Mercedes in Hong Kong and China, the difference is really left-hand and right-hand drive. So it's actually very little modifications that you need to make between taking, let's say, Ethereum-built DApp in international and transferring or porting it into China. It's very low investment, and then now you have access into China, into the user base of China, into all different types of revenue opportunities. So
Very clear.
yeah,
I have the picture in mind right now.
okay, awesome.
You spoke about two companies doing a joint venture, CryptoBLK and Kenetic Capital, right?
That's right.
What is the origin story of Neptune?
So it's super interesting because in some ways it was reversed, right? So I think if you look at sort of startups, generally speaking, the founder comes up with a PowerPoint, goes around, goes to VCs, get some funding, and then they take the funding and they develop the technology and then sell the technology, right? In this situation, what they did was so Open Permissioned Ethereum actually started in May 2021. So Neptune has been, I mean, technically the technology has been already deployed on the BSN, and there's projects on the BSN already. However, I came in February, so you're talking about somewhere around roughly 9 months. So we have a lot of catching up to do, as you can imagine. So I've only been on board for about 4 months, but we are basically commercializing it, right? So it's a little bit of a reversal because you had the funds, you also had the technology, and the technology has been deployed, but no commercialization arm up until February, right? So it's a little bit of a different type of startup, right?
What kind of clients do you have right now? Is it mostly banking industries, manufacturing industry, other industries?
Right. I think, well, as far as strategy is concerned, obviously what we're looking at is the consumer side and also the business side. So on the B2B2C side, we are focused primarily inside of NFTs, NFT marketplaces, gaming, also metaverse. Those are probably like the top three for us. As far as enterprise is concerned, we're looking at banking, finance, insurance, logistics, supply chain, this different areas, and how to commercialize the adaptation of NFTs and also DDCs, right? So
What is DDCs?
it's like decentralized digital certificate.
And is it close to NFTs?
It is equivalent to the NFTs. So it is a creation by the BSN
Mhm.
to how essentially, if you kind of think about it, how do you make NFTs accessible to any enterprise, any consumers, so on and so forth? So what it does is it makes it super easy to create NFTs, makes it very cheap, to the point where we were talking about it. I think even at the conference, eventually it'll be you can actually deploy it as a almost like a receipt, right? Um, and it's also very quick, right? Very fast. So I think there's no sort of, how do you say it, public chain issues where you talk about high gas fees, how long it takes, the cost of it all, those different things are all out the door as far as the China chain is concerned.
So you're basically telling me that compared to NFTs, DDCs are above in terms of quality and use case.
In terms of, it's like for like, there are some functional differences. I mean, if you talk about ERC 721s, which are the smart contracts inside of Ethereum for NFTs, there's a little bit different functionality there, but it's very similar. So yeah,
Okay. Wow, it's a new world for us.
yeah, it's a very very new world, yeah, for sure.
When you start your company, did you wish to know something, a couple of hack to really start your transition smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really coming down as far as the game plan is concerned, right? And I think it's basically bumping your head against a wall a few times and learning your way around. That's both on the internal and also the external side. So I would say on the internal, you need to get the infrastructure basically set up, right? I mean, you're not going to start selling things that you can't actually execute on. So you obviously have to get the infrastructure, the technology, the commercialization, the pricing, and so on and so forth nailed down before you start selling. On the external side, I would say working with different vendors, that are helping us in terms of the technology or doing things like the website and the portal and so forth. Those are key, and obviously vetting a lot of those. At the same time, you're working with different partners to try to land different projects and executing on those to deliver what you had committed. So, give you an example, NFT marketplace. One of them is actually a digital art fair, right? So, digital art fair is one of the homegrown Hong Kong platforms that I think at the end of last year they had a big fair in Central, and they sold somewhere around 8 million US dollars worth of NFTs. So they're looking into expanding inside of China. How do we help them? How do we facilitate their easy onboarding into China and launching inside of China? This is kind of the area that we're focused in on. And I think this is the same thing no matter which project it is. It's going to have all of this sort of easy onboarding. Like we're, both of us are coming from the digital space. And it's like, how do we make it so that the user journey, it doesn't matter if it's a blockchain project or a consumer that's applying for a credit card or et cetera. It's always talking about ease of use of the technology and onboarding onto the technology. So
We spoke about the past, like the last 2 years and the creation of BSN.
yes,
You are speaking right now about the art fair who happened in Hong Kong
yes.
last year, and now they want to expand into China. What is the most exciting thing you can see about that blockchain network in China for the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we look at China, a lot of people just, they hear this whole anti-crypto rhetoric that's coming out, and there's no question about it. It's very clear, right? It's like no crypto, no buy, sell, trade, mining of crypto. Get it, move on, move on, move to other markets. It's fine. You can do it somewhere else, right? But what people don't understand is that crypto is a means of transactions. It's also an asset class, but the underlying technology, blockchain, is everywhere, right? And if anything, they're pushing it so hard inside of the markets that there isn't a place that they don't want to touch, right? So I think that this is probably the biggest opportunity inside of China, or even on a global basis. If you look at some of the numbers of China as far as the metaverse is concerned, China will be the single largest metaverse market in the world, right? And they're saying that it'll probably be somewhere around 8 trillion US dollars, right? So if you kind of use gaming as an example, so if you look at gaming and you say, what are the top gaming countries? You'd say China, Japan, Korea, right? I mean, as far as development and all these other things, as far as market is concerned, China has roughly around 600 million gamers. Each one of those gamers spends somewhere around 70 US dollars a year on virtual items. Now, if you were to convert all those virtual items into NFTs, guess what? It's a massive market. But people keep saying, okay, well, it's anti crypto, but it's not. It's not anti NFT, that's for sure. Now, what we're seeing is how do companies adapt their business models, right? And when we talk about business models, you might have a GameFi project outside, and that's inside of DeFi where you buy the NFT, you stake it, you earn APY, you get interest, and so on and so forth. And that's fine. You can have that business model on the international side. Now, can you deploy the same game into China? Yes, you can. You can deploy it and do exactly the same thing, but you need to only stop at the NFT, right?
Yeah.
You sell the NFT and that's it. Boom, stop right there. NFT of let's say swords inside games or clothes or things like that, right? So what that means is on the international markets, the business model is a TVL market or an AUM market, right? It's because you're trying to earn that sort of transaction fees. The more TVL or more AUM you have there, the more you make. On the inside of China, the internal piece is basically a client acquisition model, right? The more clients you acquire, the more access you have to the $70 US per year that they have. So it's a client acquisition on the China side, and it's a TVL AUM model on the outside of China. So you can use the same game and do the same thing, but you just have to make those adjustments.
I'm a big gamer as well. I play
Oh,
a lot, so
okay.
I got like a couple of items for my avatar on
Yeah,
some of the
yeah.
video games like Xbox or on Sony. So I can really see what you mean by this. So you say like China, Korea, and Japan are the main market for gamers here.
Yes. I mean, as far as gaming markets are concerned, of course, if we look at China, China's by far the largest, right? And it's when we talk about gaming, gaming is a natural onboarding into the metaverse, right? So it's people think, well, you know, uh, isn't metaverse a game? And I'm like, well, if I said I was talking to my boss and I said, let's meet in the metaverse at 9 o'clock. I show up 5 minutes early. Do I get 5 points for that? Right? If I go and shine his shoes, and do I get 10 points for that? Right? It's like, no, it's not a game in the metaverse, right? It could be theoretically, right? But it's not. Those are two different things. So, I mean, even if you look inside of China and the metaverses that have deployed from the big tech side, right? I mean, all of those guys, Alibaba, Tencent, JD, Baidu, they all have their own metaverses, right? But Baidu launched probably one of the largest metaverses on the planet, December last year. And did they need a gaming license? No, there's no gaming license. Why? Because it's not a game, right? So I think this is what people need to understand is that as we go into Web3 and we look at all these different areas, NFTs, gaming, and also metaverse, is like, what's the demarcation between these things? Of course, the functionality is there because smart contracts are just by nature, you can put all different types of things inside of there, all different types of features. But if you can control it and make it compliant, you can deploy it, right? So I think this is where people need to understand the market.
You touched on many points here, especially about the urban legends and myth.
Mm,
Um,
right.
do you think there is some of the myths that you face and you are surprised to see that people got ideas of something wrong, and
Mm.
when you put your hands dirty there, it's totally different, or you get an experience really different from what you expected before you went to that space?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a lot of misconceptions. I mean, it's kind of like watching a police show on TV, right? It's like not every day is that exciting, right? But there's definitely a lot of interesting projects and things like that. I mean, we talk to let's say move to earn type projects. We talk to let's say fractional ownership projects, those different things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, but not every day is exciting. There's a lot of blocking and tackling that happens inside of there to get to that point. But I think there's a little bit of the misconception of the crypto piece. I think people really don't understand the demarcation between crypto and blockchain. And then I think also people don't understand that your business model can change, right? I mean, I think even if we look inside of, let's say, China, I was telling other people, I was like, if you walked into the States, you would say Buick, which is a car brand in the US, people would be like, "What kind of car is that?" Like, it's a very old brand in the US. In China, it's a very popular, very high-end brand, right? So it's a different business model or even a different brand or a different positioning or product positioning inside of these different markets. Doesn't matter if it's a car or it could be, I was telling some of the other folks, I studied in Boston. I used to go out and, hang out with my buddies and we'd go road tripping all over East Coast and we'd stay at a hotel called Howard Johnson's. And that was like, 50 US dollars, right, for a room. And we'd all crash there. And then you go to China, it's a five-star hotel.
Yeah.
So you're like, what's going on here? Why am I paying like, 250 at night at this hotel in Shanghai? And then I go over there, it's like $50, right? So I think this is what people need to understand is the change of the business model or that there are other opportunities out there. They just have to be able to make those changes, right? So
Um, Maybe some people will watch us or listen to us. There is any takeaway you want to share with them or teach them a good lesson that you learned about your 4 last months into Neptune?
yeah, I think if we look at it, I would say there people are always, it doesn't matter if it's talking about a career or it's talking about certain life events and those different things. I mean, if you're going to buy a house, a car, get married, and all those things, is there ever a real perfect timing? Right? There's rarely a perfect time. You can optimize it, look at the situation, and then say, okay, I can de-risk in these different areas, but you need to kind of make those different assessments on your own. But I would say take the leap, right? I mean, I think a lot of people, especially inside of finance right now, are making certain judgments about the finance industry, about where they are inside of their career, how they want to proceed, and looking at this area as well. I don't think that there's ever a right time for any of those different things. It'll never be perfect, right? But I think going into the blockchain space is extremely important to get that on hands experience. Essentially, being on different projects, working with different platforms, it doesn't matter what you do, you have to just get into it, right? So I would say taking that type of leap forward into it is very important. So,
We spoke a lot about China just before, that ambition to develop a blockchain ecosystem in China. And
yes,
it looks also to be expanded a lot.
yes.
But do you see any fundamental differences between the nature of blockchain, who wants to decentralize all the activities, process, operation, and the way that China is operating the BSN right now?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's if you take a look at the technology, it's just the way that China operates. It's not even it's outside of the way that even looking at technology and systems and societies and those different things is like how do they operate? It's centralized, right? It's just the way it is, right? So what that means is that if you look at Ethereum on the public chains, it's right now proof of work going into 2.0, which is going to be proof of stake. But inside of China, it's proof of authority. And, obviously the government is the authority inside of this context. What that does is, as far as all of the consensus mechanisms and all the different validators and all those different things of how do we get a block onto the blockchain, it's much more simple, right? So it's very much streamlined, it's very cost effective, it's very time sensitive, and you can get onto the blockchain very quickly, right? So I think this is the difference in the flavor of the blockchain inside of China versus outside of China, notwithstanding the fact that they're, obviously not using crypto. Everything is inside of RMB. So they do definitely take a very centralized approach to it, which, a lot of people, if you were to go to any of the foundations, it doesn't matter if it's Poly or ETH or Cardano or Solana, everybody like that's counter to what blockchain is, but it's China terms as far as how they want to deploy it, right? So that's kind of the way that we see it.
I would like to come back a bit about your background and my background,
Sure.
working in the bank, and especially connecting right now the blockchain and the banking industry or finance industry. Do you face any if you are speaking with some of the banks right now for some of the project on BSN and with your company, do you face any challenge right now when you bring innovation to them, and especially this kind of concept of blockchain and um, 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 I want to say digital assets on that blockchain in China?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that you know every one of the banks, I mean, DBS and HSBC, they have different teams that look at this area. I was in partnerships and innovation, and we were looking at this area as well. I would say inside of the traditional banks, there is obviously a lot of interest. I mean, there's no question that they have a lot of different discussions with a lot of fintechs, exploring the blockchain space, also looking at digital custody and so on and so forth. Some execute, some not. But if they're going to do something, they're going to do a POC first. That I think that's pretty standard issue, par for the course. Doesn't matter if it's crypto related or digital asset related or even wealth tech related, they will do the same thing. I think the critical question is how do they want to adopt it on a mass scale, right? So let's say letters of credit, are they going to do that on a mass scale? I think it's still very early days for that, especially for the adoption of that. I think there's also critical issues inside of the business models because obviously once they put everything onto the smart contract, guess what? That layer disappears inside of the bank, right? So the whole point of deploying blockchain and smart contracts is actually trying to simplify those process and procedures and have very quick decisions made, right, and execute transactions real time. You will lose a lot of different layers of sort of governance, if you will, right? So I think this is also part of the incumbent nature, right? Because of course those folks are looking at how to adopt the technology, but then they don't want to completely transform. They want a evolution, not revolution type situation, right? I think. Yeah.
We saw a lot of banks going to the metaverse recently.
Yes.
We see also banks participating on the central bank digital currency project, especially in Hong Kong with
Correct.
China. And you spoke just before about gamification, gaming,
Yeah.
metaverse for gamers. You bring new product and you think the product you can deliver to those gamers into the metaverse, right? So do you think you can teach something to the banks or you can work with them to rethink that product? Especially when we speak about banks, the products are pretty much
Mhm.
standard and aged right now.
Right. I think it really kind of depends on the bank's openness to innovation, right? I think your bank is actually quite open and very diversified in that sense. I think some of the other ones are more traditional, and what would be almost leading edge for them is not leading edge for you guys, and the other way around, right? I think it's quite different. So some people say, okay, well, I bought some land in the metaverse, and that's already leading edge, right? And
Mhm.
then some have done a drop of NFTs and those different things, and that's leading edge, right? But then if you said, you know what, I'm gonna, let's say, custody NFTs for private banking, right? For example, that would be like, oh, that's maybe a further down the roadmap, I would say, right, for certain banks, right? So I think it's more of this adaptation of the business and where they see this innovation going. I think also it's the impact to what their existing setup is, as well as what the revenue opportunity is, right? Because obviously they're always looking for how to develop new avenues or new channels for revenue. Generally speaking, it's basically either on fee income or interest income, right? That's how banks usually make money. So how do you do it inside of digital assets is what they need to get over as far as the hurdle is concerned.
What do you consider when it comes to a partnership with a bank and a tech project with a bank? What are the key differentiations items or what you would like to put on a scope of work with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it, if you're just a pure tech vendor, you're just basically providing infrastructure or a certain capability set. I mean, that's what we used to do at HSBC. Is there's one or two different things. You're either going to bring one of three different things. One is the new clients. Two is you're either going to be revenue, so whether it's fee income or interest income, and three is what's the capability set that you bring, right? Because you'll say, for example, you'll go talk to the IT team, and the IT team says, you know what, we want to bring the fraud cases down, right? And I need to hit a number of X, Y, and Z. Can you help me to do that, right? So that's a capability set. Now you go into the other side, you'll have revenue opportunities, customer opportunities, cross-selling opportunities, those different things, right? And that's more of a business decision on how to implement, which I think is in some ways more of a value add, right? Because the business actually controls the budget most of the time, not necessarily IT. And so the business will say, oh, he can get me more customers, okay, let's use that fintech, right? Or he can get me new customer, get me more AUM. Okay, let's use that fintech. So I think this is really one of the key aspects of looking at it. Deploying or trying to work and partner with different financial institutions is what the business actually wants. And sometimes it's a little bit of a mismatch between the business and the IT teams because they have different interest sets. So yeah.
How do you advocate that change to the business owners?
Yeah, the business owners, I think, well, I always say, and I tell everybody this, I said, it doesn't matter if it's an individual or an organization. I think that the way that people change is one of two ways. One is there is a significant gain, right? So you can get new customers, new clients, new AUM, new income, so on and so forth, or there's significant pain, right? So it's like, I'm losing to so and so on X, Y, and Z. I need to start making a move, right? So you're either going to make a move on significant gain or significant pain. So I think this is the way that you need to, it's almost like streams, right? Because you have to sell either the opportunity or you're going to sell, hey, you know what? So and so is doing this. The market's moving out of the way, moving this direction, and you're not going and you're not following them or you're not advancing beyond that. You're losing out, right? And then that's the trigger event, right? Because I've worked in different companies where the market just completely collapses. I mean, let's say, for example, why are all these banks at the beginning before the crash going into crypto is because it's going up, right? And there's tons of fee income in there as well if they're going to be doing all the stuff that they do. But now it's coming back down and it's gotten a lot quieter, right? So but I think it's really looking at it and selling that sort of change by selling the opportunity, the market, the customers, and those things, or selling the pain part, right? So,
You spoke about a lot of exciting concepts, metaverse, gamification. Right now, we speak about a large institution working with you. How do you create a successful case for ecosystems with all those players there? And how you come
mm,
as a tech provider to
right.
bring the best of tomorrow to them?
Yeah, so I think this is principally driven. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, of course, but I think, coming from a partnerships perspective, I think you also do quite a bit of this. is how do you connect the dots, right? So if you were saying, we're going to be doing NFTs, NFT marketplace, how does the NFT marketplace translate into a game, right? And then from inside of the gamify situation, how does that translate into metaverse? It's kind of bringing all of these this ecosystem together, more on the communities, right? Because each one is a community, but how do you bring them all together? And we're always talking about it, and we were talking about it today again. Is it has nothing to do with the product, the functionality, and all these. I mean, there's a lot of people that go and sell, like, let's say we're selling stocks. It's like, oh, do you want to open up an asset management account? Da 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 da. I can get you this at, and how many bips is it? All this other stuff, right? But that's so product focused. You need to actually go towards the community, right? You need to sell the community, and who people are related to, what are the possible synergies, those different things, right? If you just start at the product, it's a very short conversation, I think. If you start at the community and you talk about all the different facets of the community, I think there's far more engagement inside of the whole business model, and it brings all those different parties together inside of the ecosystem. So I think that's really the way that you need to talk to potential partners, is to sell that piece.
You mentioned with us you start 4 months ago with Neptune.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is your plan for this year with the company? Is it to grow in terms of tech adoption, in terms of bringing more
Mm.
people to support you on in terms of operation?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you talk to folks like Jihan, Tony from Kenetic, if you talk to Duncan at CryptoBLK, it's basically get deals through the door, right? So I think we're signing a bunch of. We've already signed a number of different deals. Like I said, Digital Art Fair is one of our clients. We also have Refinable, which is one of the big NFT marketplaces here in Hong Kong, 3 million NFTs on platform, so on and so forth. We also have a company called Bank of Asia, which is
Mhm.
a private bank with an NFT marketplace. So it's quite unique in that sense,
That's
because
unique.
you rarely see like banking and NFTs together, right? Especially in a marketplace setup. Uh, we also signed a company called Maxima, which does tokenization of horses. Obviously, there's going to have to be some adjustments there, needless to say. But those are all key examples of what we need to do in the next, 6 to 9 months, is, for the rest of this year, is how do we land these types of projects and diversify the portfolio? Because ultimately, what we want to show is track record, and that there is a demand for it, and there is a need for this type of technology, and people do want to go into China, right?
Without going to any specifics and confidential information, do you have any project right now on your pipeline or maybe to come in the future that you are the most exciting about and you can just share
Mm.
maybe just a high level view? No need to share any sensible information here.
Right. I would say probably the most exciting is inside of the metaverse. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, how do you make adjustments inside of those different models? Because you hear everything from, move to earn, people like sleep to earn.
Sleep to earn?
Yeah,
Okay.
sleep to earn. I always say is like, have you ever heard this one called work to earn? So that's what most people do, right? So, but but yeah, so I think a lot of these types of projects are super interesting because it's a completely blue ocean in there, right? And it's about adaptation. It's about leveraging the technology, increasing user engagement, also trying to create a business model for your own platform and building up the community, right? Because ultimately, even if you said, could you make a Nike run, for example, where you run against your people in the same city, or you can make it competitive and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
There's different things like that you could adjust the business model for, right? So I think this is where the opportunity lies, especially inside of these so-called to earn models, right? You have to make certain adjustments to deploy inside there and be compliant. So
Sleep
yeah.
to earn is magnific. Oh my god!
Yeah.
It's like the competition of doing
Yeah.
the longest nap
Yeah.
possible in the world.
Right. I think I wouldn't make any money there because I'm like 24/7 just kind of cranking it. But yeah, so you're probably the same thing. So
Oh my god! I would like to see the link just to look at
yeah.
it. It's really interesting.
Right.
Um, there is any advice you would like to share with the listener or the viewers of this show?
Yeah, I mean, like I was kind of saying earlier, I think there's no perfect time in a lot of things, right? I think it's really coming down to your gut and your feeling for that particular space. People are oftentimes very risk averse, especially, I mean, if we look inside of the context of folks inside of banking, finance, insurance, I mean, the whole industry is about risk, right?
Yes.
If there's one thing that the whole industry is about is how to de-risk things, right? It doesn't matter if it's a product or a process or et cetera. And in that situation, I think people are thinking all the time about risk and how to, when is it going to be the perfect time? I don't think there is a perfect time. I think also at the same time, what you need to think about is not caring about what everybody else is saying, right? I think this, especially inside of the startup, going from a very traditional or a very established firm and then going into a startup, people are going to be like, you must be crazy, right? Because um, walking away from the stability and all these other things is very, important to most people, right? But if you have a lot of conviction, if you have, I would say, passion will take you there, perseverance will keep you there, right? We are all passionate about something, and then eventually our interest kind of fades. But if you persevere, you can push forward and develop something and have very good results, right? Of course, you have to have all the drive behind it, but I think push forward and make those types of decisions inside of your personal and also professional career, right?
You are super knowledgeable on NFTs and the China market. If someone want to look at some information or find some more information, do you have any maybe website you can recommend to them? Maybe any
Sure.
YouTube channel or podcast to listen or
Yeah.
books to read?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, obviously, especially inside of the crypto space, if you're talking about digital asset space or NFTs, the first thing I would do is try one of the platforms, right? Go to the platform, maybe go and mint your own NFT or go and purchase an NFT, just go kind of experience it, right? So that's probably like the first thing that I would say is you should do is, go to an open sea or something like this on the public chain. If you're talking about different resources about China specifically, then I would say obviously the BSN is a very big source. Neptune Digital.io is also another source as well. Feel free to call me anytime if you want to talk talk about any of those NFT activities inside of China. But yeah, I think those are probably like very good resources for anybody to kind of touch on to learn more about the space and get into in the area.
It comes to my next question: how we can contact you or how we can learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so love to connect with people, have chats, grab coffee. My email is neil at neptunedigital.io. And feel free to drop me an email anytime. So I love to hear about what people are interested in and also new projects all the time.
Last question for me. You're also the co-chair of the Wealth Tech at the FinTech Association of Hong
Yes,
Kong.
right.
Can you share a bit more of what you are doing there? What is your role and how you drive the committee?
Yeah, so I'm the co-chair for Wealth Tech Committee along with Julie Chan, who's a partner at PwC. And what we do is, I think if we look back at the beginning, prior to the whole COVID situation, there was a lot of activities that were face to face, right? And what ended up happening is when we started up as co chairs, it turned into COVID, right? And so, how do you engage your membership in that situation? So, what we ended up doing is starting up a lot of different events, right? And all of it obviously being on Zoom. We did robo advisors, we've done GBA topics, we've done asset management. So, a lot of the traditional space that we covered as far as the topics inside of different panels. So, we invite either fintechs or established incumbents to come and talk about that, but we've also started to diversify more into this crypto and digital asset space because there's a lot of attraction inside of that. Whether it's talking about different fintechs inside of the ecosystems, custody, and so on and so forth, or insurance and so forth, that we also try to profile. So, we've had things on NFTs, on metaverse. We had more recently a company that does country clubs. right? So
Okay.
NFT country club, yeah,
Interesting.
very interesting. So a lot of things that what we want to do is we want to be able to obviously address what the our membership is interested in, which is now more inside of crypto and also digital assets for wealth, but also try to facilitate discussions with different fintechs inside of those spaces, right? So, could, let's say, for example, one of the banks work with this country club to offer these memberships to their existing clients, right? So for like a specific proposition, or could they create a white label country club for that bank, right? So these are the kind of things that we're trying to facilitate inside of the ecosystem, is connecting both the digital asset space and also the incumbents to see if there's opportunities to work together. So that's what we're doing inside of the Well Tech committee.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Cool.
It was
Yeah.
a very pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah.
And
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing all your knowledge. It was really insightful for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, looking forward to having another conversation and looking at all these other ones that are coming up online. So,
I'm sure we have another one with you and
yeah.
some of the experts of the blockchain in China as well, just to give more sense to everyone's and make some maybe updates compared to today in a couple of weeks or months ago.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you so
Perfect.
much, Randy.
Thank you very much. It was What the FinTech. Follow us on the different social media podcast platform and also on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe, like, hit, comment, and just share it with your friends. I will see you next week with another person to come here and discuss with us about another topic on fintech. Thank you very much. Bye bye.